I can't believe I wasted that answer on Draco Malfoy, but there are so many others that I truly love.
That is like the time when, I'm not gonna, whatever. Okay. Hi, Better Babes, and welcome back to Getting Better. I'm Jonathan Van Ness, and today we have an incredible guest, someone who I love so dearly, Julie Murphy. She is a prolific author, she's an incredible writer, and she is the woman who I co-wrote Let Them Stare with. But Julie has done something that so many people have not done yet and have struggled to do, which is finding their voice. In such a busy, chaotic world, finding our voice, it can be really hard. It can be really overwhelming. I certainly feel that she helped me find mine. So that's our guest today. Julie, how you doing?
Hi, babe. How you doing?
Good. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
So I feel like we've told this story a lot lately, but I'll just say that I fell in love with your work on New Year's Eve 2019 when I saw Dumplin on Netflix. If you guys don't know, Julie is, I just want to get a list of these because you wrote not only Dumplin, but also Dear Sweet Pea. What are your other, the other books that just people may know you for? Like your top 10.
Yeah. So probably If the Shoe Fits, it's a book I wrote with Disney.
Yes.
It's a Cinderella retelling with a plus size Cinderella that they had me do. And then also probably my romance novels with my bestie, Sierra Simone. The Christmas Notch series is pretty well known. So yeah.
Not to make this about me, but can I just say something about us that I think is so healthy?
Let's talk about us.
Sometimes when people talk about their other things, I get FOMO and I get sad that I'm not there. But with you, I have such genuine excitement and joy. Even when you talk about your co-authors, because it's Sierra, right?
Yeah.
I'm typically 5 years ago me or 8 years ago me would have been totes gel and been I wish that we had been best friends for 20 years. But 38-year-old me is just soar girl.
You go.
But also I'm not like that with everybody. So I really do feel that's part of our chemistry. I love seeing you succeed. I love your work. And I can't believe I got to birth a fictional baby with you. Well, I mean, it's actually not a fictional baby. It's a real baby, but it's a fictional book.
Yeah, exactly.
Baby.
Exactly.
But I don't want to start with Let Them Stare. We're going to get them later because I actually want to go, I think finding the voice.
Okay.
We're all struggling to find our voice.
Yeah.
This is a chaotic, insane world. And I love the clarity in with which you found your voice. So I kind of want to ask you about how did you step into your voice and how does one develop their voice? So how did you start?
Yeah, so I actually started writing sometime around my senior year of college. It took me a long time to fall into writing. In high school, it felt so much like homework. In fact, I barely graduated high school. I almost failed out of English class of all classes. I know. So that's actually something I really like to tell kids. It's okay if writing and reading feel like homework to you now. Sometimes it will take being separated from school to find that love. But as far as finding my own voice, I feel like it's an ongoing project. Every book that I write requires something different of me. And I think that that's the same way with people in various seasons of their lives. Various seasons of your life or various books are going to require something different of you. So it's important to let yourself discover new strengths about yourself and be open to new things. Yeah.
If your dog could talk, they'd scream Ollie. My pups, fully obsessed. They jump, spin, and do the little feed me dance anytime I reach for their Ollie meals. Ollie's food is fresh, human grade, made in US kitchens, and so clean it almost makes my dinner look sad. I went with the fresh turkey with blueberries. It smells so good, y'all, and their coats are shinier, their energy is up, and their poops, gold medal. When we got started with Ollie, we filled out this 30-second quiz. It was so quick, and they created a customized meal plan based on our pup's weight, activity level, and other health info. Hence why we ended up with the fresh turkey and blueberries. And that health tracking just gives us that additional peace of mind knowing our doggos are living their healthiest, happiest life. Dogs deserve the best, and that means fresh, healthy food. Head to ollie.com/better. Tell them all about your dog and use code BETTER to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Hey, Mark, order us some Ollie at 60% off. What do you think? I mean, what was the first book that you wrote that this is kind of off the beaten path, but for in my experience, I was a hairdresser. Then the first thing I did after doing hair was Game of Thrones. And I didn't make the leap into doing things on camera full time. And I don't really talk about this that much, but with Queer Eye, I was still in the salon full time until well into when season 2 came out. And I still do hair, obviously, but I was scared to take that leap of faith of going from being a hairdresser full-time to being a full-time like entrepreneur, entertainer, hairdresser, podcast, like this, whole other bag. So for you, what was that transition like of like from school to becoming an author? Like, was there ever another thing that you did?
Oh, for sure. It's really scary to step away from that stream of revenue that you've come to rely on. I mean, I have been working like almost full time since I was 16 years old, basically. Whether it was in the mall.
It's giving Kelly Clarkson.
It is giving Kelly Clarkson. Yeah. Kelly Clarkson grew up like 20 minutes away from where I did, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
Because that's in Texas.
Yeah. She grew up in Grand Prairie, Texas. I think. Don't please someone check.
We'll double check. I bet she did though.
Yeah. I feel like she did. Yeah.
Not to go too off track, but favorite Kelly Clarkson song?
I mean, it has to be Since You've Been Gone.
Okay, so same, but like what's like your favorite niche Kelly Clarkson song?
Okay, I don't know.
Mine's My December.
Oh, that's a great one.
Or no, that's the name of the album. It's Sober from December. It's just 3 months and I'll send you a link.
Okay.
But anyway.
Will you send me a link of you singing it though?
It's not that pretty.
I don't care.
You won't like it.
I'll love it.
Okay, but I'll give you a DM of it.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, So what was your like job situation with how you stepped into becoming like a full-time, fully employed, successful ass authoress?
Yeah. Okay, so I was actually a political science major and I was planning on either going to law school or becoming a legal librarian, which sounds probably really boring, but I like to be alone. I'm an indoor cat. I like cataloging material and all that stuff. And I'm very interested in the law and like politics and all these things. Jonathan's over here like taking notes. So I started out as a political science major and I was taking a class called The Downfall of the Russian Empire
with like the Romanovs?
Yeah. Like everything.
What the fuck? You know that when I saw Anastasia when I was like 9?
Jonathan, I know everything about you and the Russians.
Okay, but like I literally like my auntie, like do you know that like my auntie took me to see Anastasia and then after the movie was over, I was interrogating her in the back of the minivan and she was like, if you ask me one more question, I'm going to take you to the library right now. And then I did and she was like, we're going to the library and we shut it down. I rented like 7 movies. Like she really underestimated my obsession with Tatiana, Olga, Maria, Anastasia, and poor little baby Alexei with his hemophilia. Is there any like really interesting, crazy thing that you learned about the Russian like fall of the empire that we don't know about or something?
No, because the second half of that story is I found that class so boring that I started reading the Twilight books.
Oh.
And it was when they were like still coming out and I was like, oh my God, I could read these like 20 times and they're ridiculous and they're about a sparkling vampire. So maybe if anyone out there wants to read a book about a sparkling vampire, they'll want to read like a book that I wrote maybe one day. So it was like the first book that like, and this is not a knock on Stephanie Meyer, but it was the first book I felt like that felt approachable when I was reading something. It was like written in like a language and a style that felt like I could jump into that. So that was my senior year of college. And then after that, I decided to hold off on law school because it's a really expensive mistake to make. And so I actually I started working in libraries and worked with kids in libraries. And I wrote my first book sitting at the reference desk of a library.
I have like 9 follow-ups.
Okay.
Legal librarian, question mark?
So a legal librarian, I mean, there's so many different types of librarians actually, but a legal librarian would probably work at like a law office or sometimes like with like a judge or something like that to just be essentially their like human reference desk. So
like look up like case precedents and stuff.
Yeah, and also to like catalog like the cases that law firm might have or something like that to like create the cataloging system for that law firm. So unfortunately, it's a job that's sort of like going the way of the wind
because like ChatGPT or something.
Yeah. So, that's the case with a lot of library jobs, but like public librarians and like university librarians, there are a lot of things that they still need to do on campus.
Yeah.
But legal librarians are harder to come by now. But I mean, like even if you go to like a movie studio, they'll have a librarian on staff who is in charge of cataloging like all the old props and things like that, sort of like an archivist.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so my next follow-up was hates Romanovs, question mark.
Okay.
So what happened to that with the teacher? Like there was a teacher just like super boring, wasn't interesting? Because I feel like if I would have taught you, like, I feel like you would have been here for it.
Okay, it's not that I hated it.
They buzzed all their heads because they had measles because they thought that cured measles in like the early 1900s. So they all got their hair shaved.
Okay, tragic.
So they're all like bald as shit, like in Sochi, like about to get massacred, like in 2 or 3. It's like crazy. Like the shit they did, it's like so crazy.
Okay, I'm totally interested in it. I want to learn all about it.
And then fan fiction because you guys, Julie just taught me about fan fiction.
Oh my God.
Like I just learned so much about it. No, because I didn't really understand what fan fiction was, and it wasn't like really on my radar. Julie fucking put that shit on my radar like an F5 tornado and Twister, honey. Like now I am no. But what about like can you fan fiction real people? Like could you like what if they lived?
Okay, there's like fan fiction of like the Property Brothers. Like there might be fan fiction of Jonathan Van Ness.
Oh my God. I want a fan fiction like if they had lived or something and then maybe like maybe Alexei wasn't a hemophiliac and like Anastasia was gay.
Yeah. Go write it, baby.
Are you gonna like be my fanfic mom? Yes. And then you're gonna end up falling in love with the Romanovs after all, which like ties off like a nice circle for you of like where you thought you didn't like it, but then you did.
Yeah. I have no doubt that I could fall in love with them. And I love the professor that taught that class. He was actually my advisor. I was just like so checked out. So, okay, my senior year of college and also my senior year of high school randomly were like two awful times in my life.
That must have been an astrological thing.
Yeah, I heard you talking about this.
That must have been like a 4-year cycle. Eliza, if you're listening to this, like, is there like some 4-year cycle? We need to get your charts done with Eliza.
I need to.
Because that is what the fuck I want to know.
Yeah. So like my senior year of high school, my family, like our house got foreclosed on. We lost everything. This was like the week I graduated high school. And then like the year I graduated college, like it was just like financial upheaval for my family again.
Your mom. I'm obsessed with your mom.
I know. It was really rough times.
So you guys were going through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you, Kelly Clarkson, authored your life?
I tried.
You literally did.
Yeah. Yeah.
That made me think about myself again, just because I thought, did you ever see her true life, like Kelly Clarkson?
Yes, yeah.
And then you remember that clip when she was like, God, it's just like so crazy to like know that I never have to worry about money again.
I know.
And then like maybe like in 2020, I was like, did that happen to me? Like, am I in this place in my career where like I never have to worry again? But then my maladaptive coping strategies and like a few impulsive decisions. And so it turns out I'm not like in a Kelly Clarkson place, which is fine. But
yeah,
that's
maybe
cool.
one day. I hope so one day.
I think that with better coping strategies and less impulsivity, yes. It's just that that's one of my things that I have to work on.
I mean, like publishing money is smaller money. So I'm probably never going to be in a Kelly Clarkson situation, but maybe someday. But
I don't know. For you, I feel like it could happen.
You feel I've got like mogul energy.
And I also think that I think you have screenwriter energy, like Shonda energy. I think you could do that.
Shonda.
I do think that you have this in your boat.
Okay, I have dabbled. I did work for the Disney Channel once.
I deeply feel, but I just feel like that part of your writing like will continue to like explore and evolve and like.
I would love that. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, but like, I've never been able to shake the poor kid trauma. It will always be there.
Well, yeah. And what happens when you're young? Have you ever heard of Tori Dunlap?
Yeah,
I love her. It all starts when you're young. So I feel like that is something we like have to work on. But wait, I feel like I interrupted like 19 times there.
No, it's okay.
I got my follow up on the legal librarians and hates Romanovs ? I love that you also were like naturally interested in like law and like libraries. It makes me feel like I'm going to kind of combine these next two questions, which is, what do you feel in your experience is the importance of people finding their voice, whether that's in books or on social or just even in their interpersonal relationships in their lives? So what's the importance? And then also, what are you most kind of concerned about in our environment?
I feel like so many people who don't think of themselves as like a person on social media or an author or someone who has a platform to say something don't realize that they need to find their voice in what they find that like they're really passionate about, just because they feel like they don't have a platform to say those things. But we don't realize that like the most important platform, I hate that word, but the most important platform we have is like the people around us. Like that's the most influence we have. Like your intimate family, your closest friends, like those are the people who are like most likely to trust you and like buy into the things that you believe in. So I think it's really important to be able to know the distinction between like what you truly believe in and what you have been influenced to believe in by the people around you. And as someone who spent a lot of their early life in Texas and grew up in like really like conservative circles, it took me a long time to differentiate like what was my voice and what was the voice that I was influenced to have.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that that's really, it takes some time to figure that out.
Yeah, time, like giving people time to unlearn is so important. Because even when I look at my own experience, I didn't unlearn overnight. It took me years, and I'm still unlearning stuff.
Yeah, we talk about this so much in publishing, actually, because the more that like readers become culturally aware, we so often expect the characters in a book to start in a place where they are already perfect and they have no growing to give. And like, it's the same thing that we have to allow for people too. Like, we have to have a starting place. We don't come as fully formed humans.
Yes.
I hope that I am a better person in 10 years than I am now. I hope that what I'm saying right now is irrelevant in 10 years because I've grown so much.
I love that you have been politically minded, legally minded. What are you observing that you think is like you're the most anxious about or wish that we could change?
Oh my gosh, there is so much I'm anxious about. It's like, what day of the week is it? And it's changing every single day. But one thing that I feel like is really personal to me that I have noticed more and more is like, I'm a fat person and living in a bigger body. Like, I think about accessibility more and more because like when we did a TV appearance today.
Yes.
And they had like these tiny little bucket chairs. And I was like, guys, I'm going to look ridiculous sitting in this chair on TV. And they threw a fit about changing these chairs because they had just like, they were like, well, this is, for the sake of continuity, this segment, we always do it in this chair. And I was like, well, then you can do the segment without me.
Which was not happening.
Not happening. Thank you.
Yes.
But because it was just like a matter of them not understanding that like, this isn't a vanity issue. This is an accessibility issue.
Yes.
And so like, thankfully, like I don't have other disability and I don't even want to call my body a disability, but I don't have disabilities that I need to account for other than like, is my body going to fit in places where we're going?
Yes.
But it has had me thinking so much more. Like when I'm going places, I'm thinking more and more of my like differently abled friends.
Yes.
And what is accessible for them. And not only what is accessible, but like what like are there accessible attitudes?
Yes.
And so like even when I go on book tour now, I refuse to do any events in buildings that are inaccessible. One time I did a bookstore event and they put us in the basement and one of my readers showed up in a wheelchair and I was enraged.
Yeah.
And they couldn't move the event upstairs. So anyways, that's something I'm constantly thinking of, especially as I'm traveling like internationally, because so many people don't like let fear hold them back, the fear of the unknown.
Yes.
And not being able to anticipate what a place is going to be like.
Yes.
So that's something I'm really thinking of. That's not necessarily like on everyone's thought, like on the forefront of everyone's minds right now politically.
Yeah.
But it is such a political thing.
It's such a political thing. And I also think that like even just people's attitudes towards anything that's disability related, anything that's accessibility related,
Yeah.
it can be so cruel and shame-based and just like short. And we see that on social. And I think like kindness just goes such a far way. Like
We were just talking about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just giving people like, even just opening your heart to other people's lived experiences is so important. And we're just short on that.
Yeah.
So we just talked about finding our voice, kind of just like a getting to know you, which I thought was so gorgeous. Now I want to talk about like the power of storytelling. You are an expert in the power of storytelling. You have changed and shaped so many people's lives through your power of storytelling. So how do you find that stories help people find themselves, especially when they felt invisible?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think that stories are still helping me find myself. Do you know what I mean? Like when I wrote Dumplin, I had just like discovered the fact that like the reason I hated my body was because some man in a business suit in a building decided he could make money off of me if I hated my body. So I like the power of storytelling like was so like I was so angry. Do you know what I mean? And that's where I found like my power in that moment. And it was something that other people really related to. So I actually don't sit down and write my books and say, I want this to be the book that's going to represent so many people. Like I write my books selfishly for myself, and I think that like, I think that there's something really natural that goes into your books when you do that you can't replicate when you're thinking too much about your audience. So I write my books for myself first and foremost. And I just hope that someone else out there needs what I need in that moment.
Okay, so that's really interesting that you bring that up. And I feel like I have a hard time as like an entertainer and writer and like producer kind of threading that needle. Like I feel like especially with the podcast, I only did it for me. Like the curiosity was like and that's like why it was like so all over the place. And I feel like also with Getting Curious when it was on Netflix, like I really did that for me. And when it didn't work and when it didn't resonate the way that it needed to get a second season, I feel like ever since then, which I was like 2022, it really has made me come back to this fundamental question of like, am I making this for me? Like, and I kind of equated that with being like, like I call it in my head, like being a selfish entertainer. And you know how I was telling that story about like Peanut Goes for the Gold versus Gorgeously Me? So like I wrote Peanut Goes for the Gold for me, non-binary rhythmic gymnast guinea pig, like iconic, I think. And then when I wrote Gorgeously Me, it was like, the feedback was kind of like, can you do something a little bit more like a wider net, like not so niche? Like, and interestingly, like that one, when I did kind of do it with a little bit more of the audience in mind, it ended up doing better in my case. But my gut wants to do what you do. And I think that's like an interesting thing. And I even like as a hairdresser, it's like sometimes like you want to do the thing that you like, but it's not the thing that's like in vogue or that everyone's like asking for. And it's like, do you do what makes you happy or do you do what people want? And that's like a weird needle to thread.
It's so hard. And especially in your case, because people come to you because they know you from various like pieces of yourself. They know various versions of Jonathan. And I do think that a writer whose job is writing is really lucky because they get to form themselves as a writer from the very beginning. But people will come to your book sometimes because of the way that you make them feel on Queer Eye or the way that they feel when they listen to your podcast. And so often they will expect that same thing to be replicated in whatever book you're trying to like get them to pick up, you know? And that's really frustrating.
It might be a rude awakening sometimes for the material.
Sometimes even the books that we feel like aren't doing the best commercially, those are the books, honestly, that I have the most rabid fans for. So my most underperforming book of all time is called Ramona Blue. And it is one of my favorite books that I've ever written. And it's basically a retelling of Chasing Amy, but written by like an actual queer person who is actually bisexual and not just like sexualizing bisexuals. And it's set on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, like dives into like poverty and all these things. And like the people who love that book are like teary-eyed when they come and talk to me about it. And like sometimes it is worth sacrificing that, you know, that business choice to have those books that you know we're going to like really go and like run the miles, you know?
Yes.
So it's hard. It's not easy. And I don't think there's one right answer because there are times when I have to make a decision about a book I'm writing to be like, do I want this to make people feel like they're reading Dumplin again? Do I want to replicate that feeling, you know?
Yes. So deep. I love us. And I'm also so excited that we get to have this talk.
Me too.
Like, that's so cool of us. Okay, wait. Okay. So I think about a lot of my work, and especially like in my first two memoirs, has been taking like some of like my most painful, like kind of worst eras and transmuting that and being open and vulnerable about like what that process was like. And it's about like taking your deepest pain and like transmuting it into something that like doesn't, I mean, the pain still exists, but it's just like it's like using your pain as your purpose. Is there something in your life that's like driven you, or like a moment or like a story that like stands out to you? Was it like, what was the moment like when you wrote Dumplin and you were like, when you realized that there was like the guy in the room that could get really rich if he made you feel like you hated your body? Like, what was that? Like, what was that day?
So I got married like probably like a year or two before I started writing Dumplin. And it was going through the wedding industry and like realizing like how much I bought into the fact of like, I have to be the best, thinnest, tiniest, prettiest version of myself on my wedding day. Oh my gosh. Ian, what year did we get married?
It was like
14 years ago.
2011.
2011. So we got married in 2011. So I do feel like...
It was the first Obama administration.
It was the first Obama administration.
We were so babies.
We were so babies. We were so full of hope. But I do think that was like right around the time when like body positivity and fat positivity was like really becoming a thing on the internet in like a sort of underground sense.
Yes.
And I was discovering it on like tiny feminist websites, like people saying like radical things that actually made me like physically nervous. Like fat women saying things like, I don't care if I never lose another pound. I don't care if this is how I look for the rest of my life. Like, I am done dieting, you know? So those were like those early moments for me. And I remember Ian and I went on our honeymoon, and he took like a little film camera with him, and he took a photo of me in my swimsuit. And I was so upset that he took a photo of me in the swimsuit, like full ass, like laid out on the beach, like not like a thought in my brain. And I saw that photo after he got it developed, and I had like long forgot about it because it wasn't digital or anything like that. I couldn't look at it immediately. And I looked back, and I looked so happy, you know? And so that was one of those moments, like after my wedding, when I was like, I can't believe I wasted like so much of my time preparing for my wedding, this like really exciting day when I got to marry the person I love most in this world. And I put so much of my energy into becoming a different person on that day.
Oh, that is a gorgeous story. Also, I feel like as a non-binary, like queer person, I feel like we were in this moment that felt so accepting and really good. And now I feel like it doesn't feel as good. And I feel like I'm seeing that in just body acceptance, body spaces. Like,
for sure.
Are you feeling this pendulum aggressively swing all over the goddamn place?
Yeah. And it's hard because like GLP-1s are not like the evil. Do you know what I mean? Like, they are not the evil thing. They do good things for people who need them, or like just need them for whatever reason. Like, there are things that are positive about those things. But at the same time, like, it has created this culture of like glorifying those bodies again. And it's really frustrating. Like, I just like, I understand why people are frustrated, and I understand why we want to lose hope. And like suddenly like it was okay to be thick, and now it's not. Like suddenly it was like Vogue. And I get why people want to lose hope, but I do think that for every bit of progress we make over time, we do retain some of that progress. So I don't know when it's going to be on the forefront of like culture's mind again to be thinking about bodies in a more positive light. But I do know that there will be some bit of progress that we'll get to have held on to from like the previous time when it was in vogue.
Okay, so we basically talked about the power of storytelling and single-handedly like fixed like the literary, like,
we fixed it all.
It's kind of scary how we fixed all that so fast.
Yeah. But I do want to go back to one thing really fast that you were talking about with like us, like our progress as people over times. And like, it's really funny how all this really well aligns with like writing in general. But another thing we talk about in publishing is that your career was never going to be linear. And I feel like this with like your relationship with your body too, like this is never going to be a linear thing. Like there are moments when you're going to feel up and you're going to feel down, and you're going to think that you have failed because book sales are down, or you're feeling shit about your body, or whatever it is that is like your current battle. You're going to feel like you're down in some sort of way, but that just means that there's going to be an upswing, and it might not be as high as it was before, or it might be even higher, you know?
Yes, that's so true. And I feel this in my career a lot, like just that equating my worth or my success to like how something performs. And that's just like not what the point is.
Yeah.
Like the point really is like connection and growth. And it's not always easy to get there, but there's this woman named Kristen Neff who like coined this term like self-compassion. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
She's really cool. But if you ever haven't, Dan Harris is really into her work. I'm really into her work. My therapist got me into it, but she really helps. I think a lot of people need to read more of her stuff. What's the difference between writing a character with a strong voice and being a person with a strong voice?
Oh my gosh. I am such like an aggressive Scorpio that I truly do not know. Like, you can ask my husband, like, I'm always looking to start a fight. Like, I just
Thank God we agree about most stuff.
I know. Like,
do when I was really not.
I think we do. I think we do. But like, I just think when I was a little girl, I was like, when I grow up, I want to fight with people, you know? And so I don't know if I know, but I will say that there are times when I am writing a character that has a softer bent to them. And that is hard for me to get into. So I do think that like, it's not necessarily about like the difference between having a strong voice and writing a character with a strong voice, but it's like the ability to empathize and embody a different type of voice, and understand where someone else might be coming from.
How can people be like better literary industry supporters?
Oh, this is a great question. I think the first thing that you've got to do is find your local independent bookstore and just support them in any way you can, whether it's going in and picking up a book every once in a while, or oh my gosh, like even going in and buying stickers. Like, I don't know what it is, but bookstores have like the best collection of stickers that are just so snarky and like smart ass stickers. So whoever is out there like buying all the stickers for the bookstores, you're doing great. You're doing great, sweetie. But yeah, find your local independent bookstore. That is first and foremost. I think that, you know, I don't want to like rag on anyone that has to go to a big box place to buy their books, because I want you to get your books in any way that you can. But also requesting the book at your local library is a really important way to like help an author when you might not have the finances to do that. So that's really important. And then also, you know, if you want to get out and go to like some events and like support some bookstores and some authors like in real life and in person, that's really important, especially, you know, when we're really starting to lean towards AI in general. I think it's really important to support the arts that are like human grown and created, and publishing is thankfully still one of those things.
The way that libraries have been targeted, though, I think that's really important to talk about. And I don't really think about that as much as I need to, but the amount of time that people have come up to me and told me that they checked out over the top at a library because they didn't have money to buy it. It truly, like, libraries' role in communities is to democratize information and knowledge for people that don't have the money to go to the store and like impulse buy a book the way that so many of us can and take for granted.
It really is. And I think that there's this idea that like it's scary for the information in these books to just be present. Like, just because it's in a library, no one is rushing to put a gay book in your kid's hand. You know what I mean? Like, maybe the book that your kid goes home with is your business.
Yes.
That's a decision that you should be a part of. That has nothing to do with what's available on the shelves. So yeah. And the other thing that's so important about libraries is that like we take for granted how much of a community resource these libraries are. When I worked in a library, I was teaching people how to format their resumes. I was like helping like unhoused people like find connections in the community where they could find resources. I worked in a tiny town that was hit by a tornado, and our library became the FEMA headquarters. We just take for granted that like these things, like so many people think of as a library as like an archaic thing, but like it's not.
They're part of our community.
Yeah. Yeah. And also like libraries, like when we think about supporting an author and supporting publishing, libraries are so much more important than we give them credit for, because if the library books get checked out like 70 times, that book has to be replaced. So like libraries are constantly buying and replacing books that perform well for them. When it comes to ebooks, a library can only check out a book a certain amount of times before they have to buy it again. Same with audiobooks. So I think that a lot of people have this misconception that like, oh, well, me just calling and requesting my book at my library doesn't really help you, but it really does.
I want to get into the origin story of Let Them Stare. So you are a heralded, storied, iconic fiction writer and author, just authored, period. I'm a baby. This was my, not counting my children's books, this was like my junior album, my junior book, but it was my first fiction book ever. And I actually got the idea for this book in this podcast, doing the work that we do and getting curious with the historians that I've had the honor to interview over the years. And so to birth this idea on this podcast and have this idea and then meet you, well, it was in the reverse order. I met you, then I got the ideas, then we came back together and wrote this book. It's really so surreal.
Yeah.
It's truly been years in the making. And I was saying, just, I'm a very excitable person, and I feel like the inner child in me like lives large, especially with creativity. And I was saying at this place that we were at last night, but you really have been the most like open-hearted, open-armed, incredible collaborator who has just been so patient and loving. I kind of want to cry because I can't tell if it's like work exhaustion or like authentic, or it's probably both, but
I'll take your tears.
I just couldn't have like asked for a better person to create this with. And it's just been such an amazing experience.
I love you.
And I hope we get to do more. And I do want it to be a movie. And I know that every author says that, but it could be a series, but who knows? But I just think I just had so much fun, and I had so much fun with you doing this. But so let's talk about Let Them Stare.
Let's do it, babe.
So let's talk about, I don't really want to have to tell the exact same story. No, like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you guys the fast story. So 2019, Julie and I meet at Book Expo. It's 2019, it's May. I had sprained my ankle. Julie and I meet. Then 2022, I impulse buy this bag. Freaked out about how expensive it was. Then I got this daydream about it being haunted by a queen from the past. All sorts of different queens from the past, really. Then we come back together. And so for you, like, because you guys, just so you know, Julie and I have been talking about this at all of our little book tours, and it is on camera in a few different places, so you can like look it up if you want to see the origin story. But for you, what was a part of like Let Them Stare that kind of, because like I was really into the history part. What were you really excited to like bring your color to? Because you brought your voice. I really feel like the book is like us.
Yes.
Like there's some of it that is so me. There's some of it that is so you. What were you most excited to like put into the story from your perspective?
I was just so invested in like creating a world for Sully that like when we first started talking about this book, I can't remember if my agent was on the call with us when we first talked about it or not. But I got off the phone and I was talking to like my agent or my best friend or someone, and they were like, well, how'd the call go? Like, what's the idea? And I was like, it's about a haunted handbag. And like it had to be my best friend. She was like, what the fuck? Are you serious? And I was like, yeah, but there's like really something there. Like, I think that like there's the bones for something that could really work. And I just started thinking about like Sully and this small town and like the kind of kid who would actually find hope in a bag. Do you know what I mean? Like the kind of kid who would just like find like this gem of a bag and be like, this is the purse that's going to change my life.
Yes.
You know?
I feel like, I mean, I don't know if there were kids that were like I'm sure there were kids that were like more self-actualized, like around like 18 years old in like different places than maybe where I grew up. But my inspiration for Sully was like, I wanted to write this character, and you like helped do this so immensely. And we've seen young people like all over the country. I've been meeting them for years, but like these kids really are so progressive. There are kids that are so self-actualized, and it blows me away like how clear and brave and just in their power so many young people are, and kind of knowing who they are. And so Sully really was kind of like this inspiration of like who I wish I could have been, and who I think I would have been had I had access to information.
Yeah.
But growing up in a small community where like the gender binary is so incredibly enforced, and you know, I graduated high school in 2004, like exposure to queer culture and queer people was incredibly limited. And once I did have that exposure, I really started to learn who I was, but it happened so much later. And I think that the ways that I went, you know, for validation, which was a lot, it was like fleeting. I talk about it a lot in my first book, but it really took me into so many unhealthy places. And I love that we were able to write a story that's like full of wonder and hope and like joy. And it's like not sexualized, and it's not like icky. And like, I mean, all I had to read that was like queer culture was like gay, like porn, like gay porn, like novels for adults that I got from Barnes and Noble. Like there wasn't any like cool YA stuff that was like appropriate for me to read
at your age. No.
And this is like so appropriate and cute, and like it's just such a good story. And I love that we get to create content that's like heartwarming and like, but also like a really good story. But it's just nice. Like I didn't have any queer like Harry Potters, and now this is at least like part one.
Yeah, and there are also like so many queer books out there now that are like just like taking fantasy and like all these incredible things that queer people have always loved but never found themselves in, and you can find it on the shelves now, and that's really incredible. But I think that like young people right now are so lucky to have a vocabulary that we never had. Like, when was the first time you remember hearing genderqueer, gender nonconforming, or non-binary? Yeah. That was like
when I was like 28. I mean, it was like people started to ask me if I was genderqueer or non-binary, like after Queer Eye came out, and that was like when I really had first heard about it.
Yeah,
like in earnest. Because I mean, I read about this so much in Over the Top, but I was so bent on like physical validation from men that like I sacrificed like who I am. Like, because I thought as a gay man, like I had to be, this is hilarious, but like you're me, but like more masculine. So I really did like, I butched it up as much as I could, which wasn't very, but it took me a long time to like get the confidence to be who I am.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Because like in the very like basic train of thought that I would have as a young person, I would think like, oh, a gay man wants another gay man. They don't want a gay man that has like a feminine bend to them. Do you know what I mean? So it would be very confusing and very like hard to find validation. And I think that the fact that like kids have this language now and it's okay to be these things is already like, it's the progress that we were talking about. Like, it's like things are bad right now, but that's progress that's been won that like these kids get to have as a starting line.
And we got to fight for it to stay.
Exactly.
Because it is about to be censored like out of public schools and stuff. So we got to make sure that like,
I know.
Yeah, that people still have access to the information. There is still progress, but yeah, you're so right.
It's still such a social norm on places like TikTok and in social media. And that's an incredible thing. Because I know that like just having like a label at times to like associate yourself with and call yourself feels like a safe haven.
Yeah.
Like it feels like there is something that I identify with.
So I feel like I want to do this part just for the book because well, what was your favorite part of creating the book?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I think that really my favorite part of every book is editing a book, because when you are working on a book, when you sit down and you imagine this book, like especially you, Jonathan, like you have this idea of what the book is going to be in your head. It's so fully realized in your head. And then the first time you put it on page, no matter who you are, no matter how long you've been writing, it's disappointing. It's never what you want it to be. And so I love the process of editing because it allows you to get closer to that dream version in your head.
Yes, that was so fun. Like going the back and the forth and like adding our own like things to it. In our case, we did like our outline. And then I really wanted to like blow you away with my like uniqueness, nerve, and talent as a writer. So I would do the first pass, but I needed so much help. And then I do want to tell this story because I think it's like fun. After like the first couple chapters, when like I would turn it in and then I would see what it actually was. And I was like, am I not doing this right? Or like, is it like, what is like missing? And you were like, well, what's happening is like, you're kind of writing the story as a memoir of the main character. Cause I was used to writing in memoir and fiction is so different than that. It's like so much more world building. And it's not from this like me perspective. You have to like zoom out and talk about other people's feelings. And like, for me, I was like, wait, it's not all about me. And because I identified so much with Sully. So that was like such a fun exercise in myself, like pushing myself and learning to write in a different way and like exercise a different part of my like creative brain.
Like just thinking like, what does the kitchen look like at Sully's house? You know what I mean? Things like that.
I remember when you taught me that and being like, it's like not only what Sully hears and what Sully smells and what like Sully sees, because everything was like Sully POV. And it can be, I'm sure, for like some stories, but like generally that was just like, what other cool stuff did you teach me?
Oh my gosh.
You taught me so much cool stuff about
also
thing,
tenses.
Though. You taught me that I don't know how to stay in the same tense.
Well, that's
which I struggle with
that can be
immensely.
Fixed. Yeah. But you got better at it.
I'm just like a really aggressive typo girl. I get so excited when I write that I have so many run-on sentences and typos.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what editors are for.
Yeah.
And speaking of, like we had so many, I know that like when you see a book, you see one person's name on the book, or in our case too. But we had like an incredible team at HarperCollins working with us. Our editor, Kristen Runs, was incredible. But really, like the person that was with us, like the whole way, our whole journey
Mary
was
Cole.
Our dear friend Mary Cole.
Hey, Mary Cole, who's actually in the sound studio right now.
Yeah.
We love so much. She got to join us on this day of our book tour, but she really was our scaffolding that kept us going.
I know, because we were just two ADHD riddled babes.
Our ADHD together is an F5 tornado. Like it's the big one at the end of Twister, like the original Twister.
Yeah, and we're in it for the science, baby.
Yeah, we are so in it for the science. But in our case, it's storytelling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which was really fun.
Yeah,
and good.
But I mean, we would have meetings that we had booked for like 30 minutes, an hour, and you and I would just spend like 25 minutes being like, babe, what's going on? What's going on, babe? And then Mary would be like, so about the book.
That's true.
Yeah.
I do, just for Let Them Stare before our final round, this book is it's a YA fiction novel, but it really is for anyone. So I want to play a quick rapid fire game of Let Them Stare, where we talk about the themes of the book until we can't do it anymore. Okay. Ready?
Oh my God.
Family allyship.
Feather boas.
Gender.
Friendship.
Romance.
Unlikely friendship.
Influencer culture.
Enemies to lovers.
Paranormal stuff.
Phyllis.
Vintage shopping.
Oh my God, you're so good at this. You prepared for this, Jonathan.
No, I didn't. I'm literally doing it off the top of my head.
Okay.
Like vintage shopping culture. Chinese, Asian secondhand buying. Like buying like secondhand in like Asian strong culture like markets, like what what Angelica does.
Okay, perfect. History.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of history.
So much history.
Queer community.
Queer erasure. Queer
like mean stuff to queer people in history.
Means up to queer people in history.
Police!
Yes. Okay. Policing queer people too, of course. Yes.
Fucking hidden queer spaces.
Yeah. Paranormal activity.
And influence. Oh, I already said influence. I think we did it.
Yeah.
Is that all the themes? No, because representation.
Representation.
Like allyship, friendship, romance, cardials.
But okay, one thing that we did, like we talked about this a little bit in an interview today, but we talk a lot about how like a character will grow and change and we expect them to grow and change. But we talked a little bit in an interview today about how, we sometimes we have to give people grace in our lives to like grow and change. And like, we can't expect like there's like closed-minded Uncle Chuck in the book. Like these are completely new and foreign things that Uncle Chuck is having to learn and metabolize. And we can't expect sometimes for someone to just wake up and get it. And so we were talking earlier today about how like the town isn't such a welcoming place for Sully, but the town also goes on a real character arc journey in this book and it becomes a welcoming place for Sully. So I think that's really important to like point out, like small town and finding acceptance in a small town.
I think that's something especially from going back to Quincy and Queer Eye and just being exposed to so many people who are in small towns of their own, just from being exposed to so many more people, that it was one of the most joyful parts of this narrative is to write a book where it's not about escaping your hometown, but it's about like finding joy where you are. And I just think that in our culture, we are sold so much of these ideas. And you've talked about this a lot. Like if I was the right body size, if I was the right occupation, if I had the right amount of money, if I had the right look, if I would then I would be happy. If I just did this, then that. And this book really is about like kind of accepting who you are, accepting where you are and figuring out how to make it work, even when it's messy and even when it's scary. And Sully, I just think Sully's story is so powerful for so many people, but it's also like fun and light, but it also can be so powerful depending on who you are.
Yeah.
So I hope people get so much out of it and I hope they get it.
It's fun and light and it's full of mystery, but at the same time, like there's this idea that your life is going to start when you are the person that you want to be. But like Sully just wants to go to New York. Sully just wants to get out. Sully could have died at a plane crash on their way to New York.
Yes.
And then all that Sully would have had was this life in like Hearst that was so small and so tiny because Sully let it be that way.
Yes, that is so true. I hope you guys read it. We're going to do a really quick lightning round and then we're getting Julie out of here.
Okay.
Okay. Let me just get to the light. Okay. What's a book that changed your life?
Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak.
Your favorite character ever written?
Oh my gosh. That I've ever written or ever written?
Ever written, period. Or a favorite character you've ever written and your favorite character that you didn't write.
Okay, we hate J.K. Rowling in this house.
Yeah.
But we love Draco Malfoy.
Oh yeah, he really turns you on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like adult Draco Malfoy is like, you talk about that a lot. Your fanfic.
Oh my God, stop. Okay, no, but really like J.K. Rowling is like the worst person ever.
She really is.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of queers that apparently are doing like good, hot, sexy fan fiction of like the characters. And so like we like to support queer authors.
We do.
And make her, we should do a fan fiction where like Draco transitions to a woman. Hermione transitions
talking about Draco Malfoy.
Hermione transitions to like a man, to Herman. Draco can be like Draconia. And they are on like so much HRT. Just like Herman is giving Draconia like so much estrogen.
They're playing all the sports.
And like Hermonia does like a little like boop and gives like Draconia these like big
old titties.
Like voluptuous breasts, like milky wet breasts.
Yeah.
Okay, you know who I'm gonna say my favorite character ever was? It just came to me. I think Marla Hooch in A League of Their Own was like a really good character. And I also liked when Madonna was teaching that one girl that didn't know how to read, which is another important moment in literary history for cinema, when she was like milky wet breasts, and then she was like, May, what are you teaching her to read?
Yeah.
What a good movie.
Oh my gosh.
Such a classic.
I can't believe I wasted that answer on Draco Malfoy, but there are so many others that I truly love.
That is like the time when, I'm not, whatever. Okay. What are you watching and reading right now?
Okay, right now I am reading, I'm not technically reading anything right now because I am writing a book right now and I can't do both at the same time. But I just finished reading a book called Recommended Reading by Paul Kacha. And it's about a kid who works in a bookstore, a little gay kid. And he thinks he like has everything figured out. Like he anytime you come into the bookstore and you're having some kind of life problem, he has a book to fix it. So he can fix everyone's life except for himself.
My book that I want to recommend really quick because it's like Giving Lit episode. Our former guest we had on Getting Curious a few years ago, her name is Anna Malika Tubbs, and I love her so much. She wrote this book on Malcolm X, MLK, and James Baldwin's moms, like about the stories of their moms. It was like so interesting. God. And I loved it so much. But she just came out with a new book and she sent it to me in the most gorgeous box, and I can't wait to read it. It's called Erased. And then it's called Erased, but it's about like the patriarchy and like what the freaking patriarchy's done. And it's like, and wait, I want to make sure I get the title right because the American patriarchy has hidden from us what the American patriarchy has hidden from us. So that's the one that I'm going to recommend for now. I love Anna Malika Tubbs so much and I cannot wait to like dive into it.
Okay, wait. I have to say one more book
series.
Tell
us right now.
Okay, it's the If Shakespeare Was an Auntie series by Nisha Sharma, and they're all like books about like modern Indian couples in the United States, but like if Shakespeare was like an auntie, like your auntie from India, like oh my God, she's so good.
I love that rec, and I love you so much, and I know you have to go get on your plane, so we're gonna get you out of here. Julie, thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. Your light continues to light my life, and your work continues to light the way for so many people, not just young readers, but anyone who's ever been made to feel small. We love you. We love your work so much, and I'm just so grateful that you came. And if someone is listening to this and they're feeling like, I don't know if I'm allowed to tell my story, what do you want them to know?
I want them to know that no one is going to pay you to write until you take yourself seriously. So no one's going to pay you to write until you take the time to do some writing yourself. So sit down, write. You're not a writer until you start writing. So just start writing. You have to start somewhere.
Julie Murphy, I love you so much. Thanks for coming on Getting Better.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, guys.